Hi, and welcome to our latest edition of the Playful podcast. And it's great to be joined today by Sue Atkins, who describes herself as a parenting expert, but she's also a teacher, a writer, a broadcaster. The list is almost endless. But the reason why I was really so keen to speak to you today, Sue, and to have this conversation is there are so many things that you talk about that are things that are really passionate elements of the work that we do here at 50 Things to Do. So we are really keen to promote the importance of play to parents. We are really keen to talk about work with parents in a non-judgmental way. Yes. So reminding them about ways to play through our 50 things, but not being judgmental, not pointing that finger, because we know that that isn't the right approach with parents. They already feel judged and overwhelmed. But then the most recent thing is your passion around trying to address or even redress the screen crisis. And linking that with play. And I just wondered how you kind of stepped from, because you've already started to explore a lot of stuff around the impact of screens with older children and the content that's on those screens. But with our youngest children, it's not necessarily about the content. It's just about accessing screens and spending so much time on screens. I just wondered why that mattered to you.
It started because I read The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, of course, and I was really fascinated and really gripped by it. And I thought, well, how can I always go, how can I help? Yeah. What can I do? What can we do differently? Or how can we work together? And the more I kept reading about it and thinking about it, I saw him speak in London, I thought, no one's really talking about the younger ones. So that was 9 to 15, I felt he was sort of talking about the anxious generation. Then I sort of started to bring it down a bit. And then I thought, but habits start at the beginning. They start with the parents, actually. Yeah. And it's parents' habits that you've got to think about too when they're on their smartphones all the time or, answering emails and all the rest of it. Then it became very apparent. I thought, I took that to the next stage. I thought, what about bonding with a baby? And so you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, but you're on your phone. So you're not eye-to-eye contact. You're not fully in the moment with your child. And I suppose I remember thinking that was quite a magic moment for me with my son and my daughter. And then I thought, well, no one's talking about this. So I just started to think about it and write about it. Then I sort of thought, it needs to happen. How do I reach the parents I want to reach? So I thought, well, perhaps they're in the hospital having a baby, not a new parent necessarily, any new baby, and you're not aware that what you're doing with the screens is impacting them and you. So I wrote this guide around screen-free, babies, and not necessarily automatically. And I do this all the time, I notice, handing over the smartphone. And then I thought, there's toddlers around all of this too. And I'm pro-tech, but I'm pro-tech. Yeah. And I thought habits start early and we need to raise awareness, not judgment. Yeah. But did you think about when you're handing that over to stop your toddler having a tantrum, you're actually preventing them from regulating their own behaviour. Yeah. Because you're a bit embarrassed in the restaurant or in wherever you are, the coffee shop. And do you know the damage that you might be doing to their vocabulary or their bonding with other children or their engagement with the world, a sense of wonder? Yeah. Because it's passive. And everything on a screen is quite interesting, but it is very passive. And you can see then there's all this. I started to get very interested in the tech of that and Cocomelon and all the rest of it is designed to keep you addicted to the screen. Yeah. So you think they're learning something, but they're not really, because they suddenly just get sort of passive and then they kind of just glaze over. Then they get that dopamine hit. Yeah. So it's about the messages that not I want to judge people. I want them to think, pause to ponder what you're doing with your screens. Because I don't think we know the damage and the dangers that we're doing now for 15 years later.
Well, that's it. And I think, as an early years sector and kind of, we do a little bit of work with, sort of reception age children and slightly above. But we are seeing, and obviously we're hearing, national perspective as well now, that it is having an impact on the way our children are communicating with each other, on the number of words that they are using, children's ability to use words in context. So whilst they might be getting lots of words thrown at them, through Cocomelon or through YouTube shorts designed for young children, or whatever, they're not in any context. It's not the same.
But they're also too quick.
Yes.
And young children can't process their brains. Yep. It needs to be slower.
Yeah.
And parents don't actually know either that if the TV's on, you've got music on and you've got the screen going, they're totally overwhelmed by all the noise, the speed.
Yeah.
It gets faster and faster.
Yeah.
Their concentration goes. Sleep is affected. Yeah. They're not physically active. They're very passive. Now, we all know, and I don't like judging, but we all know the odd moment with something when you've got to do the ironing or something crops up and you're doing something. Of course, but it's also thinking about it. It's about conscious parenting for me. It's consciously thinking rather than automatically handing.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah. And, I wonder whether parents feel that they're doing the right thing, giving their child their screen, because that's what they've seen other parents doing. And also, is peer pressure the right word when it comes to parenting? It probably is. But, seeing that, well, this is what those parents are doing, and I've seen those children in the playground. And I know from, having 4 children who've had different exposure to digital technology, because the eldest is 26. And that mine was, in each of the ages, they were pretty much the last to get anything.
Yes.
And it was like, when can I get a phone? When can I get a phone? When can I get a phone?
Yeah.
And, I'm quite strong-willed, and I had reasons for not giving in. But, for other parents, it must be like, oh, actually, everybody else has got one.
Well, there's definitely that. And there is the Smartphone Free Childhood campaign around trying to group people together so you don't feel, oh, I'm the only one that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, but I was always quite confident with my own kids because, no. And I used to even just practice saying, not to be horrible, but no, you can't have so-and-so. So they get used to hearing no. And I think parents don't need to be their child's friend. They need to be their parent.
Yeah.
And if we know, and we're exposing more and more parents to balancing it out, and play is the antidote, as far as I'm concerned, to screens. Yeah. It's proactive. It's so wonderful to be outside. So much is happening creatively, sharing, playing, exploring, all of these wonderful things. If we can try and get that message out to parents, not judging them, but actually thinking about it so you don't automatically think a screen is a good idea. Because the way it's marketed to parents is, oh, they're learning their ABC, they're learning their colours, they're learning the time or whatever it is. And there's been lots of research around that. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
And the thing that children always, I think, spell love, time. It's your time that is the most important thing. It doesn't actually matter what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking with them, playing with them, listening to them, reading to them, allowing them to play alone. Sometimes sit down and start them off if they're a bit young, but then you sort of withdraw, but they've kind of got the hang of what they were supposed to be doing. Yeah. So that's quite a good one. And I've talked to parents about for a minute. Yeah. So if you sit down on the floor or whatever you're doing for a minute, often you're there a bit longer. Yeah. But also that connection has happened. Yeah. And then they get used to that. So it's, again, instead of this automatically handing over a device, which then is on auto cue, which upsets me greatly as well, because then you think they're watching one and then it's onto the other. Yeah. And that leads to addiction and dopamine crash when they come off it and they are, all a bit jittery. Yeah. And we need to look at our own habits as well as parents. Yeah. Because if we're constantly on it, then children just see that as normal. And when kids rush out from school or nursery and you're on your phone, you don't look up, what's that doing to their self-esteem?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, with our screen time campaign that we've launched through 50 Things, we've got a top tip sheet. And I think one of the really important things, you would not believe how many times we read and reread and wrote and rewrote the statements because we were so adamant that we didn't want to be judgmental, but we wanted to get that message through in a way that might make somebody stop and think, like you say.
Yes, because judgmental's difficult, isn't it?
It is.
Because if you're all kind of namby-pamby, they're not getting the real message. Yeah. There is a danger, and we are in a crisis. I heard you say that earlier when we were talking about something, and I think parents need to know that this isn't us just being, screens. Yeah. There's a real danger about a whole copia of things that are wrong with it. Yeah. It has its place. They're growing up in this new age of using technology. I'm very pro tech, but I'm also protect, and delay.
Yeah.
So a key word is delay it as long as possible, and say yes.
Yeah.
You know, don't use it yet, and build them up if they're getting older, not just early years when they're getting a bit older and they want and they whine.
Yeah.
Well, you know, whine away, really, because I know that I've got your best interests at heart, and you can't have a smartphone yet.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And within our top tips as well, we've talked about, you know, if you've got a child that's already using a screen and you're using your screen, which, you know, is you know, almost a given, that just take some small steps.
That's it. You know, it's incremental. It's not a big change, is it? Small habits end up making big differences. Yeah. So come back a bit from some of it and just think about it and go and play for a bit longer.
Well, that's it. I mean, you know, I think you've said something similar in your work, but, you know, we've suggested just, you know, putting your device on a high shelf and making just 10 minutes to do something without that. But the other thing that we've talked about is if you do need to check your email or something, that you explain that's what you're doing.
Yes, I think so.
You know, and I know my kids tease me, especially because I'm so passionate about reducing screen, that when I'm ever on my screen, they'll be saying, "Are you doom scrolling?" Yeah. And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm checking my email."
I think it's important. But on the podcast, you know, my podcast, Navigating the Digital Jungle, we talked about that because not all screen time is equal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you might be looking up a recipe. You might be cooking, right? And you go, "Oh, how much flour do I need in that?" And say it out loud. Yeah. So children hear what you're using it for. You're not just mindlessly on Instagram or something. Yeah. And if you're doing the shopping list, say, "Oh, I'm making the shopping list. Should we do it on here?" Or maybe get the pen and paper out nowadays. But it's all about just thinking about what you're doing and not aimlessly and just blindly giving them something. You explain what you're doing with the screen. I think that's the important.
Well, that's it. And we mustn't dismiss screens as something dreadful because, you know, I don't live particularly close to my in-laws, and when my youngest two were younger, it was great to have those FaceTime meetings or video calls.
If Grandma lives in Australia,
you know, you
do
don't
it
want to
with them though.
Yes,
I think that's the secret. I mean, not under 2, you shouldn't really be on screens unless you're doing something like a FaceTime to Grandma and Granddad or whatever it might be, because that's meaningful. It's contextually, there's conversation and all the rest of it. But leaving them in front of screens on their own without any interaction, without any explanations, creates this passivity in them. And, you know, as I say, play then is the antidote to that. Come off and do something interesting, though. Don't just take it away and not have something nice to do that could be playful and fun. And then you'll actually enjoy it yourself. It's good for your mental health as well, actually,
well, that's another message that we've been talking about for quite some time with our 50 Things, that playing and doing the 50 things isn't actually just beneficial for your child. Right. It's beneficial for the whole family's well-being, you know, and especially the more you get outside and sort of, you know, having that experience in nature, and just it's so good for all of us.
It's just reminded me of something I had created, an image, because I talked about ing activities, ing, playing, biking, sailing, I don't know, running, jumping, dancing, singing. All the INGs are just kind of proactive activities that you can be doing with your children. Yeah. So just think ing.
Yeah, I love that. I will take that forward. I think for me as well, the thing that I hadn't really connected around the impact of screens was around the impact it was having on our eyes.
Now that's really interesting. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't necessarily just screens. Yes. It's about intense close-up
and
work.
Your neck as well, actually.
Yeah, your neck as well. Yeah. But there has been a significant increase of children with myopia.
Yes.
At the same time that there has been a significant increase in children using screens. Yes. And again, I think, you know, that message needs to be, we're not saying you must never look at the screen and that will mean that you don't ever get myopia, short-sightedness for those who might be more familiar with that phrase. But it can be redressed with spending a similar amount of time outside, looking at long distance, stretching your eyes, and, you know, sort of that element.
That's a real element, isn't it? The physical side of it. Like we say, the neck and the eyes, you haven't even thought about that. Also very passive if you're just sitting doing something, scrolling or playing or whatever, or on that auto cue thing with whatever it is. It is being more active. That's the important thing too. So it's in balance, isn't it?
It is.
And it's just raising awareness, I think. Parents hadn't thought about that with the short-sightedness.
Not at all. And I guess another thing that was, I was aware of the impact of screens at mealtimes, but probably thinking more around you're missing that opportunity for a conversation.
Yes.
But, you know, the more I've read into it, children are losing the ability to understand when they've eaten enough. Because they're not focusing on what they're eating, which, again, is fascinating.
Well, I'm trained by Paul McKenna, and I used to help him on his weight loss seminars. Obviously didn't work with me. But anyway, we tend to think about food an awful lot unless we're actually eating it. If you put a screen in front of it, you're not conscious of when your tummy's full. So children are growing up with not even thinking about that. Also, you're missing a wonderful opportunity to chat with them, not at them. Don't nag about the broccoli and holding the knife and fork properly. What was funny today? What made you laugh? Or I don't know what you talk about. What do we all talk about? But meal times are very special to me as a family. And still now, my daughter, she's a great cook. They're 30 and 32. But we love meal time. It's a sociable time. And the other thing that a lot of people do is I say, well, put your phones away in a hat or a jail or wherever. Leave it in the other room so that you are engaging with each other.
Absolutely. Sue, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but unfortunately our time is up. So thank you so much. And do you want to do a little shout out for where people can find all your wonderful resources and work and your podcast?
Well, I'm thesueatkins.com or navigatingthedigitalJungle.com. Or if you're interested in the podcast, you can get it across all the platforms. But the work you're doing here is utterly fantastic.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you again in the future. Thanks.